We have another one. Eddie Chase. Thank you, Eddie Chase. Fair to say that Lincoln doesn't seriously care about defense. Super genius, but he's had a few titles. He'd have a few titles by now if he had a top 30 defense. Fight on. Well, Eddie, I don't know what to say to you. He's addressing it. You know, he came into here. We had our roster on defense was really bad. He walked into Oklahoma and their roster on defense was really bad. And he was saddled with Mike Stoops as well. Is Lincoln is Alex Grinch the answer? To be determined. And I'll just keep following on until he shows us, you know, this is his audition. I think he knows it. I think he said during the preseason, he knows his job's on the line. He said every year as defensive coordinator, your job's on the line. You know, you got there, you perform or you don't. If for whatever reason that it doesn't work out, I'm sure that Lincoln will have a choice to make. But I from what I'm seeing from this defense, from what I've seen up front, it's not necessarily the people we're playing, but when we're playing inferior competition, as opposed to previous years when we played inferior competition, we are shutting them out in the first 2 to 3 quarters and then coasting to a game win. So we will see once we start seeing the Utahs and the Notre Dames and the Washingtons and the Oregons come onto the schedule. That's when it's really the rubber's going to hit the road, right? But right now it's looking good. So why don't we wait? I know as fans, we always want to jump the gun, but why don't we wait a little longer, see if he actually does it? And I don't think we need a top 30 defense. We have a top 50 defense. We could backdoor our way we could win the Pac-12 and backdoor our way in the playoffs. You thought? Also, I'll say as well. When you play in the Pac-12, you're not going to have a top 10 defense. You're just not. With the offenses we have here in the Pac-12, you're not going to be a top 10 or even top 20. It's going to be difficult to do. We have watched at the end of the year. I think we had last year, they had 8 quarterbacks that passed for 3,000 yards. Okay. I think that's a record of some sorts. I'm not sure, but that sounds like it must be close to it. And you're not going to shut down Pac-12 offenses. And just like we talk about the defenses in the Big Ten, is that a function of are the defense a function of some of the offenses in the Big Ten? Right. I'm looking at you, Iowa. I'm looking at you, Illinois. Right. Things like that. The other way around, they say, well, are the defenses that we're looking at in the Pac-12, is that a function of the quarterback play and the offenses we have here? Your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, Eddie, I mean, like this question is going to be with us until we get to the big games. And so, like, first off, you know, we got to worry about Stanford. And Stanford used a lot of tempo. Like, this is no longer David Shaw's offense. It's definitely Troy Taylor's offense. And USC needs to be ready for the tempo that Stanford's going to bring this coming week. And then, of course, Eddie, as I'm sure you're aware, like that Colorado game now looks a lot more interesting and tricky and dangerous for USC. And so, you know, how that USC defense plays on September 30 in Boulder, like that now becomes a much bigger plot point, because before the season, you know, and hey, I'm going to be the first to admit I was wrong about Colorado and Deion. Like, I thought 3-9 would take some time for all that material to come together. Didn't. I thought, you know, there was talent there, but like just throwing all those transfers together after the spring game, I thought that would be a real problem. Obviously was not. Like Deion, also Sean Lewis, his offensive coordinator, rock star hire. Like, that was a great hire by Deion. They made it all work in week 1. And we can say that TCU was bad, but still, Colorado balled out. Colorado was just absolutely outstanding on offense. And it's not as though TCU didn't know what was coming. Like, TCU knew that Colorado was going to throw some more. Colorado still scored. Like, that's a good analogy in baseball. I'm going to throw a fastball right down the middle, and I'm going to see if you can hit it. And so Colorado was throwing its fastball right down the middle, 100 miles an hour. TCU couldn't hit it. That's basically what Colorado did. And you just have to compliment Colorado on how quickly all this has come together. I think Colorado beats Nebraska. And like, I think Colorado is probably now a 6-win team. Like, that's my revised outlook for Colorado after week 1. That instead of being 3-9, it's probably a bowl team, because Deion was able to get this thing fixed much sooner. Or maybe not fixed, but he was able to improve it by a large order of magnitude much sooner than I and a lot of other people thought. So USC going into Boulder, that's now a much more interesting plot point. And we'll learn a lot about USC's defense on that day, especially since, as we've talked about, busted coverages, allowing big plays has been the main weakness of the defense. Like Colorado doesn't run the ball, or at least it didn't against TCU. It's all about the downfield pass. And so far, USC has shut down the run. The passing game has been more of a concern. There you go. With Sanders and Travis Hunter, playing pitch and catch, that's going to be a really interesting test for that USC defense. So, like coming off the Nevada game and before the Stanford game, I mean, we don't have to litigate the Alex Grinch defense question. That's going to be litigated plenty of times, especially I think, starting with Boulder and then October 14th in South Bend. And then we can all check back in and see where the defense is at that point in time.
And this is good. And so I talked about this on the show last night with Ben and the guys at the After Dark show. Travis Hunter did 141 snaps. Okay. Couple things. You cannot do that for 12 games. That's number one.
No.
No way. Number two, that was at sea level. When SC
in very hot weather.
But I'll take hot weather over thin air. And even though he's training, he's up in Boulder, the human body and your heart and your your whole body doesn't function that way. And if he thinks he's going to get 141 reps, and USC is going to be a lot tougher game than they've faced, and probably will have faced until that point. They play Oregon, I believe, before us. Yeah, but if anyone thinks that he could do that at altitude, I got a bridge for sale as well. So
yeah, and just to briefly look at that USC Colorado game, the fact that Colorado plays Oregon the week before, like that's going to take a lot out of Colorado. Like the double stack Oregon and USC back to back. Like Colorado is going to have a hard time filling up the fuel tank all the way after playing Oregon, or at least assuming that the Oregon game is competitive into the fourth quarter. It's going to be hard for Colorado to fully regather for the USC game, whereas USC is at Arizona State. And like, if you're ranking the 12 Pac-12 teams after week one, like it's unanimous. Arizona State is number 12. Like there's no debate about it, with Cal looking decent and with Stanford looking solid against their opponents. There's no question. Arizona State is the worst team in the Pac-12, at least right now. So USC gets that game as the lead into Colorado, whereas Colorado has to go to Eugene and Autzen Stadium. So that's a detail to keep in mind. That's, definitely something in USC's favor.
Question. Well, not question. Is a comment here from Roy. We had a wide receiver transfer. I think he's talking about CJ Williams transferred to Wisconsin. They run 65. How does that happen? CJ Williams was a stud, balled out completely at modern day. Came to USC, absolute skill. But have you seen our wide receiver room? This is not an indictment on guys like Gary Bryant Jr., on CJ Williams, on Kyle Ford. It's just a very full room. These guys are making, these are young men, are also businessmen, and they're making business decisions. And all these guys have a shot at the NFL, and I think they've all made the right decision. That's how it really happens. And then unboxing, reviews, and more. Travis Hunter is on a different level. You're right. He's almost on Zachariah Branch's level, and he's getting kind of close to Caleb Williams. But he's not on their level, in my opinion. So let's stop the hype train. Okay, he's not that good.
Well, I
derailed us.
I was astounded by what Travis Hunter did, but that having been said, Chandler Morris of TCU is no Caleb Williams. Let's put it that way.